There are two statements made by Chazal, the sages. On the one hand, it's the Jewish people, when they were in Egypt for all those years, they did not change their names, their clothing, and their language. And that's a tremendous praise for the Jewish people. If you think about Americans, people came from Europe to America by the second generation. They're already using American names. They're wearing blue jeans, and certainly their clothing, their language. They're talking American, talking English. And here, the Jewish people in Egypt, 210 years, and they're praised. They didn't change their names, their language, their clothing. A tremendous, tremendous accomplishment for considering all the time they'd elapsed. On the other hand, there's another statement that the Jews were on the 49th level of spiritual impurity. And had they not been redeemed, they would have gotten to the 50th level, whatever the 50th level indicates, and they would never have been able to be redeemed. So how do you reconcile these two statements? It sounds like a tremendous, how could people who have held on to their Judaism for so long, how could they possibly be said to be on the 50th level of impurity? So the story is told of a well-known story of a guy who goes into a bathhouse, a mikveh, and he's sitting in the mikveh, and he realizes everybody in the mikveh is, without their clothing. And he's got a problem because he asks himself, listen, how am I going to know which one is me afterwards? When I go into the mikveh, I come out and I have no clothing, nobody has clothing. How am I going to know who I am? So what he does is he bends down and he ties a red ribbon around his big toe. And he figures, when he comes out of the water, at least he'll know which one is him. So he bends down and he ties this ribbon, but very carelessly, there's a guy sitting right next to him. So instead of tying it around his toe, he tied it around the toe of the guy next to him. So he goes into the mikveh, he comes out, and he bends down to start putting on his clothing, and he looks over at this other guy, and this other guy's got the ribbon around his toe, and he's looking down at his toes are ribbonless. And he's all confused, and he looks at this guy and says, excuse me, can I ask you a question? I know who you are. Can you please tell me who I am? So there's a tremendous depth to the story. You see, a person could be in a situation where they don't change their name, their language, their clothing, but ultimately they've lost the sense of who they are. And the Jewish people in Egypt, on the one hand, they're holding on to some sort of Jewish identity. On the other hand, there's an idea one day we'll be redeemed and one day we'll be taken out, but they've really come to terms with this idea of being a second-class citizen in Egypt and basically treading water as Jews. That, from our perspective, is the 49th level of impurity. A Jew who doesn't realize who he really is, or what his role in life is, and what his goal in life is, that's a Jew who's really lost a sense of who am I really. So there's a very interesting phenomenon in the world of tshuva, and the kiruv, in the tshuva movement, which started back in 73 by Ohr Somayach, was the pioneer yeshiva in the tshuva movement. And a very interesting phenomenon in Israeli society particularly. They have found many Israelis leave Israel. They go to either California, Toronto, West Germany. They're all over the world. Everywhere you go, you're going to find an Israeli. Generally, when there's an avalanche anywhere in the world, there's generally going to be an Israeli there, or any sort of any other boat that's quarantined off the coast of Italy. There are probably Israelis there. Everywhere you go, you're going to find Israelis. And they leave, they go all over the world. And what they found is that many Israelis have left Israel, and when they've gotten to West Germany or to California or Canada, they then become Balei Tshuvas. They then tap into their Judaism and then they make a full return. Why should that be? So experts in the field have speculated, there's a lot to this, that when they're in Israel, there is a certain sense of minimal Jewish identity. They may have a Pesach Seder, some may actually go to Shul on Yom Kippur. They certainly speak Hebrew, things like Yalla, Bai, and they eat sunflower seeds. And there's a very much a kind of a Jewish identity. And when you have that Jewish identity, you're basically complacent, and this is who I am, but with a sense of, but who am I really? And with little answer to that question. When they go off to Chutz La'aretz, to go outside of Israel, and a Jew goes to Germany, or a Jew goes to Ireland, or a Jew goes to Argentina, and he sees the people, the natives, who all have an identity. We are Germans, we are Argentinians, we are Canadians. And the Jew says, well, who am I really? And at that point, he begins a search. And when he begins his search, then he realizes there's more to Judaism, there's more to Yiddishkeit than speaking Hebrew and then coming to shul twice a year. And there they make the metamorphosis and they change and they become Torah Jews who are looking for growth. That's what happened to the Jewish people in Egypt. The Jewish people in Egypt, they're there 210 years. And then Moshe Rabbeinu shows up, the Medrash says, he came, he told them that he is the Redeemer, and then he disappeared for 6 months. 6 months Moshe Rabbeinu wasn't there. Then he came back 6 months later. Why was that? The answer is that up until Moshe Rabbeinu came, there was a certain sense of, all right, one day we'll be out of this, but right now this is who we are. When Moshe Rabbeinu shows up, and they realize, hey, we're about to be redeemed. And then he disappears. Could you imagine what they were like the next day? Nobody was talking Lashon Hara. Everybody showed up to shul. It's there! And they were in a growth mode. Once they're in the growth mode, Moshe Rabbeinu came back 6 months later, and that's when the ultimate redemption take place. And just one final thought. When we sit down at the Pesach Seder, it's a very peculiar procedure. We make Kiddush, standard. Then we wash our hands, standard. And then we have the appetizer, which is karpas. And the karpas is just one little piece of celery, not even a kazayas. So there's always somebody there at the table to remind you, not more than a kazayas. And you take this little bite of karpas, which is an appetizer, and then you wait. And you wait, because they start saying the Haggadah. And it could go on for a long time. So you have an appetizer, which only reminds you how hungry you are, until eventually the meal comes. Says the Shem Mishmo, one of the great Hasidic masters, that karpas, appetizer, is a reminder to us of what happened to the Jews in Egypt. Moshe Rabbeinu showed up, and then he left. That was to whet their appetite. When he whetted their appetite, they then went into growth mode, and eventually were redeemed. We eat the karpas as a whetting our appetite. Then we get hungry. Then the matzah comes out, and we eat the matzah with gusto, and we eat the meal. And that matzah and the meal, says Hashem Yisrael, that represents the ultimate redemption. Everybody have a Chag Kosher Somayach.